So you're saying in effect that that's grandfathered in?
It's exactly correct. That's the word they use.
And if the curfew were lifted, would that then null and void the grandfather clause for the?
It does. It can be lifted in this way. It can be lifted if it is lifted for all classes of users, and if it does not make any day of the year more restrictive. Since the longest day of the year that you can fly in here is now 9:08 p.m., no restriction could be earlier than that. So they cannot lift it for, say, 8 o'clock in the winter. It has to be 9:08 year-round as a minimum. The third requirement is that once it's moved to a greater access hours, they can never be moved back. Any change is forever.
Okay. So do you had your hand up?
That last point was what I wanted to mention. From the documentation provided at the airport, once it's lifted, it can't be made more restrictive.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to say about the pros before we go? And what we're going to do is I want to do the same thing with the concerns.
My name is Harvey Roisman.
Right.
I want to respond to convenience.
Okay.
I did a 6-year study on various mountain airports, and I think part of the problem, part of the reason that we are considered difficult to get to is because of the lack of reliability of flights coming into and out of Tex. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal just 2 Fridays ago where they referred to getting into Telluride as, quote, notoriously difficult. The amount of cancellations, this is not diversions, these are cancellations over the last 6 years. Telluride had 14.9%, Aspen was second at 8.5%, and then Gunnison, Vail, and Steamboat are down to 3 to 4%, and Montrose is just under 2%. So if 1 out of 6.65 flights is being canceled, and this is year-round, this is over the full year, A, there are more cancellations in the winter than there are during the summer months, and more people are inconvenienced because the load factors, I would think, are higher in the winter than they are in the summer. So that's a huge percentage of 14, just short of 15% of the flights being canceled. So I would question convenience, and I would wonder how many people here that are locals, when they have to be someplace, do they fly out of Montrose or do they fly out of Telluride?
I don't fly to Montrose because it's so expensive, but
The statistics you gave.
you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, it's misleading. There's no ILS approach here, so
Yes, there is.
you're going to have there's a beacon, but there's no defined ILS approach. So you're going to have misses here more often than you're going to have anywhere else, especially in the mountains.
Any other thoughts on this?
You have a localizer, but you're not going to get. You have to be able to pick up the localizer approach. So you're going to have missed here more than you would Aspen or Vail for sure.
It's inconvenient. It's still
That just makes no point.
That's his point.
Yeah. That's
Go ahead.
I think if they're going to be handing out funds for an ILS approach or other nav approaches, they would be more likely to give it if there were night approaches here. And it would be a safety thing for sure. But WAS approach, those sorts of things, I mean, I would think that they would probably want night up, and it's actually evening landings, not night. But
So is that another pro? Are you adding something to our list that we could put in a nutshell here? What would it be?
I don't know that it's fair to say the feds are going to give money for a WAS approach here, but they could. I mean, it would be a safety issue for sure. And
Go ahead.
Donna Palmer, this is just a point of information because I'm interested in the facts and getting clear on the facts. It's unfortunate that we don't have someone from the airport here, if that's what I heard correctly. What I read in the paper, and this gentleman here, Harvey, was speaking about cancellations. He made a distinction that he was not speaking about diversions. But I read that there was like 50% diversions from Telluride Airport to Montrose.
No.
That was a couple years ago. is it not anywhere near that? But I mean, why is it that we're also not looking at diversions? Because that would be, is that relevant?
50% diversions on average,
No,
or
that-
year-round, or are you talking about in the winter months, or?
You know, I actually
Okay.
don't remember
Okay.
right now. That's why I'm wishing there was someone here with that kind of data.
Did you, Jack, were you the one talking about that? Did you want to?
I was, and
You want to respond
the
to that?
Department of Transportation didn't have diversion statistics for Telluride. They had it for a lot of airports, but they only had cancellations for text that I could find. This is from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Bureau of Transportation Statistics.
So your statistics weren't talking about diversions, you're just talking about cancellations, okay, that's a good,
Which to me are more significant.
okay. Is anybody,
Can we manage our time and move on to the next one, because we're running out,
yeah, that's a good idea.
please?
All right, so let's go on to the concerns. What, does anybody have any concerns about having these night flights coming until 10 o'clock curfew?
I would just
Can you
put,
say what your name is?
my name is Steve McComb. I live here full time. I moved here 5 years ago for a reason, and that's the lifestyle. And my biggest concern about this whole thing with bringing in bigger airplanes, more airplanes, night airplanes, you're going to put me back right where I was in the city. And that whole lifestyle change for the people that love this place is hugely significant, I think.
So, Scott's writing change to lifestyle, is that in a nutshell? Does anybody else have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah.
Go ahead, wait in the back here, we haven't heard.
I've been here for 20 years. And
Can you say your name?
Oh, my name is Alicia Nogueira. I live here for 20 years, and I live in Lawson Hill. And it seems like the planes come and do a loop around above my house, and I wouldn't be happy if there was planes at night at all.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm against it, big time.
Does anybody else have anything on the noise at night?
Well, there's the noise and the light pollution. I'm Susie Mead. I live in Last Dollar Development, just below the airport on the east side, so along the incoming.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's the noise pollution, the light pollution. I mean, today was incredibly loud, and it was daytime, and all kinds of jets and big planes came in today. I don't know what, just for the weekend, for spring break, but this is just during the day, so the night is just crazy.
Any other thoughts on noise and light? In the back there, you haven't said
Well,
anything yet.
Bill Wells, I live at Last Dollar Subdivision, and my biggest concern is safety. Safe night flights.
And can you expand on that safety issue?
Yeah, plane coming into my condo.
Crash.
So, okay. So you think if they come in at night, they're more likely to crash?
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I do. I have several thoughts on it. Number one, TRAA, the airport authority itself, at a public meeting, is on record saying that they thought it was unsafe for general aviation. I think the quotes are in this handout. If they're not, I could provide them to somebody. But TRA, the airport manager, a guy named Brian Bingo, who's an airline pilot on the TRA board, all said that they would be concerned about general aviation pilots flying in here at night.
And can you do you know why? What is, expand on why?
I can
'Cause
read the quote.
I don't know.
The quote is in this handout I gave, and they had a handout on September 16th where they were looking at options, and the TRAA said, the present operating hours are the safest. And that means extending the hours would be less safe. At that same meeting, Brian Eaton, who's a professional pilot and on the board, said, quote, if I was living near the airport, I would be concerned also late at night that private airplanes are flying around here when a guy might just be a private pilot with 200 hours. And then after the public left the meeting, Rich Nuttall, the airport manager, said, and then you have the safety thing. You have to look at, you have to, a Part 91 guy, that's a general aviation pilot, fly in here at night with 200 hours. That's a little bit scary. He's going to auger in and out of here.